We're joined now by Thérèse Coffey, Deputy Prime Minister and Health Secretary. Thank you for joining us, Ms Coffey. You're on your way to your Cabinet meeting, which is happening later today. We'll talk about Ukraine in a second, but let's talk about that. It does look like there's going to be another U-turn by the Prime Minister today, this time on benefits. She's going to go with the idea that they're linked to inflation. These U-turns, they're not a good look, are they?
Well, Richard, no decisions have been made, and I used to do the role of Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, and these decisions were always made in November. So it's sort of news to me that all of a sudden everybody expects us to make decisions ahead of normal practice. But it's important that Chloe Smith has the full evidence in front of her in terms of coming to that conclusion.
Well, I suppose the expectation, let's be honest, is based on the spectacular U-turn that the Prime Minister made a couple of weeks ago. I mean, one day, on a Sunday, she's telling the nation that there's no prospect of a U-turn on the tax reduction at the top rate, and the very next day, we have a U-turn. It's kind of destroyed her credibility, hasn't it?
Well, this was a minor part of the plan for growth. It became a distraction, and meanwhile, we continue to support households with the cost of living challenge. I'm very conscious that there was already a £37 billion package in place, and this has been significantly increased by this administration, by this government, because Liz Truss recognised the challenges that not only households were facing, but also businesses. Yeah, so the energy price guarantee for this winter and the following is the most substantial part of the plan.
You're quite right to say that it was a minor part of the package. You're absolutely right on that.
Well, it was £2 billion.
Yeah, but overall, within the package, yes, we can take that point. But it was a major U-turn. And the trouble is, it now means that people like us, next time we interview Ms Truss, if she says emphatically that such and such a thing is or isn't going to happen, we're not going to be sure whether the next day we're going to see a complete reversal of that. We just won't know.
Well, at the end of the month, the Chancellor will be setting out the medium-term fiscal plan. Work is happening on that, not only with the Chancellor in partnership with the Treasury and indeed the Office of Budget Responsibility, but also working with departments too. So it's important that we get on with that. The Chancellor felt confident sufficiently to bring that forward from his original proposed date in November, and that will happen in just about 3 weeks' time.
Do you have a view on whether those in receipt of benefit should expect that those benefits are uprated in line of inflation? Because your Cabinet colleague Penny Mordaunt does, and she thinks they should.
Well, I'm a member of the government. We have a government view. That government view has not yet been established. And my friend Chloe Smith, who has replaced me as Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, will be carefully considering all the evidence that's put to her by officials, and that decision will be announced in November.
Oh, come on.
More broadly, the plan for growth is important to make sure that we do grow the economy. I'm pleased that there are even higher record numbers in payroll than ever before, but at the same time, also conscious that inflation has been hurting people. That's why interventions like the energy price guarantee will make a considerable difference, as well as removing direct levy today, that we are taking legislation through the Commons to do today. So we are supporting working families very much so, as well as people who are most vulnerable too.
Surely, Deputy Prime Minister, surely you can answer Susanna's question. It's really simple. What do you personally think, irrespective of what the eventual decision is, do you think that benefits should be linked to inflation or not? It's a dead simple question. We'd like to know what you think.
I'm not going to second guess. I mean, this is the joy of being in government, that we work together as a team. It's not a case of having all sorts of individual personal views. I support the overall plan for growth that we are trying to achieve in order to grow the economy. But I think it's important that Chloe Smith be given that space to make the decision based on the evidence that I won't have in front of me, and I trust her judgment in doing so.
A bit harsh, wouldn't it, with inflation at the rate it is, if those in receipt of benefits are not treated the same way as those in receipt of pensions, for instance?
Well, in terms of pensions last year, I was responsible for taking legislation through Parliament when we had a bit of a statistical anomaly, which meant that instead of having a triple lock last year, we ended up with a double lock. We've committed to the policy that we had from the manifesto to reinstate the triple lock this year. That is a policy approach. Right now, the officials at the Department for Work and Pensions will be preparing the information for the Secretary of State to make that considered choice.
Yeah, the thing is, but Ms Coffey, the thing is, if you don't uprate benefits in line with inflation, you're effectively cutting people's benefits. And you're talking about growth and you're talking about, pushing people into jobs. The fact of the matter is, I mean, there's all sorts of working people who are in receipt of universal credit.
That's right.
If you do not give them an inflationary rise in their benefits, they are effectively having their benefits cut. And,
Susanna,
I put it to you once again, Penny Mordaunt has come out in favour of it, Robert Buckland has come out in favour of it. Surely it is the ethical, moral, humane thing to do.
Susanna, no decision's been made. It's important that Chloe Smith has that space and the evidence to make that. But what I will point out that's happened in the last year is that we reduced the taper rate significantly, from 63% effective tax rate to 55%. We're continuing to help people get into jobs. There are still many hundreds of thousands of jobs to be filled, and that's why the effective work happening in job centres right across the country to help people not just get a job for the first time, potentially, or to get back into work, but also to get on in work as well. And that's why we've extended the number of people who are working quite a smaller number of hours every week on how we can help them improve their work prospects as well. So there's a whole variety of things. There's quite complex legislation. Some benefits are already tied specifically to inflation. That's particularly true of people with disability benefits. Some other benefits are not tied in that way. So that's why it's important that Chloe Smith has the opportunity to bring that all together so that she can make the appropriate judgment and announcement.
All right, you said that. What do you think of this apolitical view? It's almost a historical view of the way politics works in this country. That whatever the administration that's been in power for quite a long time, be it Labour or be it Conservative, if you just look back at the record, there seems to be a natural span of about 14 years. And after about 14, 15 years in power, whether it's Labour or the Conservatives, they run out of steam. Do you think whatever you do now in Cabinet today and in the next couple of years, you're kind of heading for the exit? Because that is a kind of immutable law. You can't really go on much longer. You need to pause, lick your wounds, relaunch.
Richard, I'm very conscious in 2019 we won a comprehensive victory, a majority of 80. Now, in between then, we've had the impact of COVID, we've had the impact of Putin's illegal invasion of Ukraine. These all have had significant economic consequences. That's why I'm focused as Secretary of State for Health and Social Care. One of the things I came on today was to talk about how we're tackling backlogs in my ABCD, and that's we're opening up 10 new community diagnostic centres. Again, making sure we tackle that backlog, having these places in whether it's shopping malls or added onto hospitals, easily accessible, because that backlog of about 7 million either tests or treatments to be done, we need to get on with that diagnosis. And that's why we're investing in the NHS to make sure we can put patients first. So whether they need treatment at all is a really important place. So we need to try and get on with that, and that's what I'm focused on right now with my ABCD. OK,
you're heading off for Cabinet.
I am.
Very quickly, we've only got about half a minute left. Were you surprised and even annoyed that Cabinet wasn't consulted about the mini-budget? It was just dropped on you, and it must have come as a shock to you.
It's always been the case, regardless of whatever administration is in place, that tax matters are a matter for the Chancellor. So that's nothing new. I think the plan for growth has got substantial for support. We've ditched the stuff that was starting to become an unnecessary distraction and keeping our focus on making sure we grow the economy. And that's what I intend to do as well through health, trying to make sure that we have an agenda where we help people who are currently unwell, see what we can do to improve their prospects and help them get into work as well.